الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله لا إله إلا الله.
Oh, you just call Azan? I call Azan.
You already called them?
Yeah, I call.
You have to call again.
Yeah, you need to do
You
it.
say Salaam Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الحديث حديث محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, by the time, verily mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed, done righteous deeds, and enjoined others to the truth, and enjoined others to patience. Now, the theme of Surah Asr in the Quran is the theme of salvation. See, certain surahs, even the small surahs, can have an entire theme just for the one surah. For example, like Surah Ikhlas is a theme of the Tawheed. So in this case, this is the theme of salvation. And Imam al-Shafi said that if this was the only surah to be revealed, this would be sufficient enough for guidance for mankind. And this is just a statement from Imam al-Shafi. Now, let's go into breaking down this surah, inshallah. The first, wal asr. That's what Allah is saying, right? And some scholars have translated this by the fleeting time or by the passing time, as if time is progressing and going away. And what Allah is saying is that He is a witness to time. There are two different interpretations for this ayah, and I'll get to the second one later. But the main interpretation is that Allah is swearing by the time. You see, atheists, they cannot explain the beginning of time. You try to ask them this question, and they can't ever give you an answer because there is no answer, not from their perspective, not from their sciences. However, we know that Allah created time, right? So He exists outside of time. He is not bound by time like we are as human beings. Right? Every minute, every second, every hour that passes, that is time that we cannot get back. But for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He witnesses all of time. He's a witness to the whole thing. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proceeds. Verily, mankind is in loss. And subhanAllah, if the surah ended here, just with this ayah, verily mankind is in loss, then that means there is no salvation. No matter what we do, has no meaning, has no bearing. So, alhamdulillah, He continues, except for four things. Except for those who have believed, done righteous deeds, advise each other, enjoin each other to truth, and enjoin each other to the patience. So these are four things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that everyone is in loss of all time, throughout all time. Right? He's witness to all time. So everyone throughout time is in loss except for those who have these four things, who do these four things. The first is the aminu, right? The belief. And so when we talk about the belief, what does it really mean? The belief, we can, some scholars have described this as you have two different types of iman. You have your legal iman and your real iman. Legal iman is I was born Muslim or I'm Muslim by name, and that's as far as that goes. Whether I follow the Quran and Sunnah is something else entirely. Legally, most of us are Muslim because we were born Muslim, or we have a Muslim name, or we came to Islam, but we're all Muslim in that sense. We have the legal iman. The real iman, this is where now things get more serious in terms of what it means to actually have the iman itself. You see, I can claim to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? I can claim to have the belief in the angels, the unseen, the books, the day of judgment, the prophets. I can claim to have all these beliefs. But what does that really mean to say I believe in something if I don't actually follow up with action? There's no action to follow up with the words, then the words are meaningless. So I can sit here saying that I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but if I'm not following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for me, has commanded me in the Quran, then what is that belief? Where is this belief? It doesn't have any substance. So the first step is that Allah is saying we must have the belief. And then second, he follows up with the righteous deeds, the amal salihat. Right? And what are righteous deeds? I mean, this can encompass anything and everything. I mean, everything that's in the Quran and Sunnah, these are all the righteous deeds. And it's not just the salah, it's not just the fasting or the hajj, or it's not just your basic 5 pillars. See, these are bare minimum, but these aren't only the righteous deeds that are there. Right? Allah isn't saying to do only the bare minimum, or he's not specifically talking about salah or fasting. He's saying righteous deeds. This is a blanket statement, so there are a lot of different type of deeds that we could be doing and should be doing, right? Both in the Quran and the Sunnah. So when we talk about the good deeds, we should look at the word good, for example, because when you talk with non-Muslims, right? When you get to know non-Muslims, you're working with them, you go to school with them, whatever it may be, you tend to maybe gravitate towards people that you consider good in your mind, right? Oh, he's a nice person, she's a nice person, whatever. But when you're around these people, you start to think that they are good people, even though they are not Muslim. And maybe some people may not like me saying this, but in reality, what is the good in this person? Just because they are kind to you, just because they may say a few kind words, maybe they hold the door open for you, is this what is good? I mean, this is just acts of kindness, but acts of kindness does not necessitate good. So we have to understand that good can only come from Islam, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only prescribe what is good for humankind, right? And the good comes from the Quran and Sunnah. So he can only prescribe what is good to us. He's only prescribed good to us. So anything else that we may follow outside the Quran and Sunnah, whether it be someone following another book, or Muslims following their own temptations and their desires, their greed, lust, all these different desires they may have, then those are not good, cannot be good, right? If Islam is saying to lower your gaze, to do anything otherwise would not be good. So we need to understand when we look at the non-Muslims, they may be kind people. They may even stand up for Palestine. They may even stand up for just causes. But the good can only come from Islam. Without Islam, there is no good. Objectively, this is how we have to look at it. Because if we see as non-Muslims as good, but they don't have Islam, then you're saying that good can come from anything else other than Allah. Astaghfirullah, we know this cannot be the truth. That good can only come from Allah. So, when we talk about the righteous deeds, right, Allah is telling us that everyone is in loss except for those who believe and do the righteous deeds. This is a statement that is general, meaning that there's many different kinds of righteous deeds we can be doing. From our words, our actions, our character, our honesty, our truthfulness, these are all a part of good. These are all the things that are prescribed in the Quran and Sunnah. These are all basic things. We know these things, right? But we quite often fall into the temptations, desires. We quite often listen to shaitan. And this pulls us away from the good. This pulls us away from the righteous deeds. So then Usman continues with the wasaw bil haq, those who enjoin others to the truth. Now, enjoining others to the truth, what is the truth? You could just say simply, oh, the truth is Islam. Yes, technically that is correct, but that is not all that is in reference here. That is not all Islam is just talking about, oh, just bringing people to Islam. Yes, the call to Islam is important, but it is not the only call to truth. See, truth can come in many forms. We can talk about international policy, we can talk about wars, we can talk about Philistine. Yes, this is the truth that we have to stand for. And when he's saying enjoin others, he's saying that you stand in the truth and you bring others with you. You enjoin, you call the others to the truth as well. So the truth can come in many forms, but it can also come in smaller aspects. It doesn't have to be big, acts of injustice that we're facing against. It could be smaller things too. Local in the Muslim community, for example. How many times we know in the masajid here where Muslims and collectively are doing bid'ah, right? These innovations that do not come from the Quran or Sunnah. This is very common in our Muslim communities, right? Collectively, I don't mean just talk about individually, but collectively, right? Like for example, when a Muslim passes away, they'll have these Quran Khanis, right? Where the people just get in the masjid and they just keep reading Quran for hours and hours. There's nothing in Islam, no practice like this in the Sunnah. So why do we do something that was not prescribed in the Sunnah? How can we claim this is a part of Islam when there's nothing to actually back it up? There's no dalil, there's no evidence to support this. I mean, there's many different bid'ah. It doesn't matter which country, which region you come from. Every society, Muslims, there are these cultural practices that have been conflated to Islam, right? They've been conflated to acts of Islam, but they are against Islam because they're not a part of Islam. If it doesn't come from Islam, then it is against Islam for the most part, right? I mean, you see, Muslims when they buy a new house, for example, there are certain regions where the Muslims they have a special prayer just because someone bought a house. I mean, yes, you can pray in nafil, but there's no collective act or ceremony or ritual just because someone bought a house or bought a car or something. So many different bid'at that Muslims unfortunately are involved in. So when we say enjoin others to the truth, when Allah SWT is saying this, what does that mean? It means that you stand in the truth. You tell the people this is wrong. Even if, no matter what adversities you may face, you still stand to the truth and you tell others that they are doing something wrong and you bring others with you. You tell others, come stand with me to the truth, that this is wrong, that we should not be doing this. I understand that you lost a family member, but this is not how we grieve. This is not how we cope. We don't do this because it's not from the Quran and Sunnah. We don't need to sit here reading Quran for hours and hours. This is not how it works, right? So we have to understand that the concept of standing for the truth is in all aspects, right? Telling people if they're doing something wrong is a must. A lot of Muslims, they say, oh, don't judge me, worry about yourself. But this statement goes against this ayah. This statement goes against the Quran. It goes against the words of Allah because Allah is not saying, oh, worry about yourself. He's saying, enjoin the people. Bring the people to the truth. Stand firmly in this truth. And then lastly, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and enjoin others to the patience. Now, patience is, most of us know is a very bad translation of the word sabr. Right? Sabr is so much more than patience. Patience is, you just wait around doing nothing. For example, you're at your workplace and you want to get a promotion. You ask your boss for the promotion, and he says, "Be patient." That means there's nothing you can do about it. You just sit around waiting, until maybe one day it may come, maybe it doesn't come. But sabr is more than just being patient. Sabr means that you are not only standing the truth, but you are persevering. There's a perseverance with this patience. There is proactiveness with the patience. You are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help while you are patient. There's so much more to it. So, for example, if you're facing the same adversities, we talk about, if you see the Muslims committing a bid'ah, the masjid, for example, and you and a few others are standing and saying this is wrong, that we should not be doing this bid'ah, that we should not be involved in these acts that are not part of Islam. Right? The people will get angry. They'll get upset with you. They won't say, oh, okay, you're correct, and they walk away. No, they will get angry. Muslim or not, they will get angry. right? And they will argue with you. They'll fight against you. So the sabr in this case is that you are still standing your ground. You're still standing firmly in the truth. And with that, you persevere. And you're proactive. You continue to tell the people, even no matter what they say to you, no matter what they do to you, you continue to tell them what they're doing is wrong. You don't stop. And then with that, you continue to ask for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this applies to so many situations for the Muslims, whether it be small or collectively for an ummah. When we talk about the issues of Palestine, we have to stand for the truth. We have to stand for the justice. And we must persevere. We must not let go. So many times Muslims, they let go of standing in the way of truth because they're afraid of, losing their jobs, or they're afraid of any adversity they may face from other people. But standing in the firmly in justice, this is a part of standing for the haqq. And then for the perseverance, you remain standing for the haqq. You remain standing for justice, for the truth. And you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help. The help will come, right? The help will come. Now, these 4 steps are steps. These aren't just 4 parts. These are steps. This is actually very beautifully the way it is done in the Quran. We don't really think about this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that all mankind is in loss, except for those who, firstly, they must believe. You must have the belief, right? The real belief, not just claim that I believe in Allah and then I just ignore the Quran and Sunnah. No, you must have the belief and you must abide by what is prescribed for us in the Quran and Sunnah. And while you are abiding by this means you are doing the righteous deeds. You are doing the good deeds, right? Whether it be through your words, your actions, your character, you are doing the good deeds. And a part of those good deeds, the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is specifically pointing out in this surah, is those who stand firmly in the truth. Those who stand firmly in the truth. And that's still not enough. You must also be persevering. You must have the sabr. You must enjoin the people to the truth and to the sabr, to the persevering patience. And you must always continue to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help. And then, only then do we have the salvation. SubhanAllah. That means if you only did 1, 2, or 3 of these items, but not the 4th, then you have no salvation in the hereafter. There's no salvation for us. So we actually have to do all 4 things. And SubhanAllah, the Sahaba, because this salvation is about focusing on the Quran and Sunnah, focusing on what Allah has prescribed for us, what is commanded for us. It is counter to what the dunya defines as success, right? Success in the Quran is through these actions, through these 4 things. But success in the dunya is completely opposite. It is chasing after your temptations, your desires, chasing after wealth, power, property, you name it. These are these materialistic aspects. This is what the dunya defines as success. These measurements. So the Sahaba, subhanAllah, every time they met, before would always recite Surah Al-Asr. Why? Because they wanted to remind themselves that the success is here in the surah, in this Quran, not in the dunya. It was a reminder for themselves. So they made a habit that they would recite Surah Al-Asr before they parted ways. SubhanAllah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. I just want to quickly re-emphasize a point and then also talk about one other thing, inshallah. But when we talk about these 4 things, we must understand the importance that it has to be all 4 things. Just as a quick example, if you have a bad sickness like COVID or something like that, and you go to the doctor and they prescribed antibiotics, right? And antibiotics, for those who know, it's a step-by-step process, right? Day 1, you take this many pills. Day 2, this many pills. Day 3, so on and so forth, until all the pills are finished. And the doctor will tell you one thing, that you have to take all the pills, even if you feel better towards the end. Even after day 4, if you start feeling better, you still keep on taking all the pills until the last day. Why? Because the sickness can come back, right? So you have to take all of it at the prescribed times, and then will the sickness not only be fully, you'll be fully cured from it, but it won't come back for a certain time. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that all of us are in loss, except for those who do these four things. Now, going to the first ayah, I said there was a second interpretation of this, right? By the passing time, by the fleeting time. The first interpretation was in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by time. And this is still true to the second interpretation, but the second interpretation takes it a little further. It mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to the past and future civilizations. Because civilizations have risen and they have fallen. And so when he's talking about also, so this includes us, those before us, and those after us. That by the fleeting time, these civilizations that have risen and that have fallen, they fell because they didn't have these four things. They became those in loss because they didn't do these four things. With that said, I have barely a minute here, inshallah, so I'll try to wrap this up. When we talk about the rise and fall of these empires, today, in today's current world, subhanAllah, we are witnessing so many changes none of us could have imagined in just a year ago. What is happening with Israel and Palestine is impossible to fathom. And subhanAllah, and here we are. And things continue to get worse. Things continue to shift. Constant momentums. Every day, there's new news, breaking news all the time. What we're really witnessing, though, right, is that what is happening is the rise and fall of empires. And by the will of Allah, if we continue to believe and do the righteous deeds, and we enjoin those to the truth, we stand in the face of justice, stand in the face of injustice, stand against injustice, and we bring others to the sabr, then the help of Allah will come. Right? Inshallah, the enemies of Islam, they will see the defeat, and the Muslims eventually will rise again. But this can only come when we keep these four things implemented in our lives, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Ya Allah, please accept our salah. Please accept all of our dua for the Muslims of Palestine, the Muslims of Sudan, the Muslims of Somalia, the Muslims of Yemen, the Muslims all around the world that are suffering. Ya Allah, please help. Ya Allah, please give us the real taqwa. Ya Allah, please help the Muslims around the world. Please help the Muslims who are suffering. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون صلوا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
آمين.
قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Alaikum, brothers and sisters, mashallah. May Allah reward you for coming in. And our Imam especially, that he's brought, many of the things, inshallah. Just quickly, I'm gonna go through some of the things briefly. I know many of you have to go someplace, but as month of Ramadan is fast on, and we're getting ready for our next festival, remember that we have to continue this practice of what we did in Ramadan. And this was only the practice. We have to continue on that. And the next festival has its own background with the Sunnah, how Prophet used to do. And we do it here in the back. And I will give you more detail as we go on, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala bless them. We make dua for the people who contribute. We continue to contribute. We continue to pray, inshallah. And may Allah Ta'ala reward our Imam that he brought those things to our side, inshallah. So I will see you soon, inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala reward you for listening. And Jazakallah khair for listening to me. And inshallah we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.